Good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming today for the first day of a 7-day series of lectures entitled the 2020 Empowerment Countdown. Each day there'll be several 10-minute talks given by St. Paul Free University instructors with the aim of helping you achieve your ultimate possible potential in the year 2020 and for the coming decade. And I'm extremely honored to be asked to speak first today about a topic which I think is often overlooked by people looking to make major changes in their life. Or used as an excuse for why they can, and that is financial independence. So my name is Daniel Schwartz. I'm the primary author of offgridpermaculture.com, which is a free resources for people looking to move their life into a more sustainable, independent mode of living that involves growing your own food, developing independent water sources, generating your own electricity, and living closer to the land and living in a sustainable manner, which is fulfilling every step of the way. Now, I came to this because I love working with electronics. I love building systems. I love working with my hands. And I love teaching people. And all of this comes together to a lifestyle where I can feel every day that this is something that I love doing, that I'm dedicated to doing, and that when I end up passing away, I'll have made a positive, significant contribution to the world around me. And I think everybody deserves a life where the work they've been doing in their career or whatever it is, their daily activity, lets them feel, I've done something good and I've made the world a better place. Everyone is better off for me having been here. And unfortunately, for so many people, that just isn't the case. Our society has developed in a way, and this isn't new. This has been going on for thousands of years, but we've built ourselves a rat race to where, the people that don't have much are getting squeezed, and the people that have a lot are, getting more and more. But for me, it's not about who you vote for, or it's not about any particular ideology. It's really more about what we as individuals choose to do. And so, in 2020, we've been given such a huge gift. For the first time in history, we've had an absolutely wide open array of possibilities. The amount of information out there about alternative ways of living, thanks to the internet, thanks to YouTube and places like that, social media, we all have the ability to analyze our life and make conscious decisions. Not only that, the amount of freedom that society gives us to choose the way that we live. We always wish that it could be more, but compared to historical times, we just have so much free will. If only we take the steps to go out and make those changes, right? It's all in our hands, for the most part. There's some things that you got to work around, but the ability is there. We can make these changes and we can live the way that we want to live. And it doesn't matter what way that is, that's up to you to make the determination for yourself. But if you're going to get started on the route, you need to have the ability to say no to whatever it is that you don't want to do, and the financial freedom to spend time and money on getting your life in the right direction. So that's why I developed these 3 simple steps to develop financial freedom. And to some people this may seem super basic, and it is, because it's not really that tough intellectually. Like we like to play games with ourselves and think of all these gimmicky ways, and look at any self-help bookshelf and you'll find tons of it. But really, it's not that hard. It's more about just taking step after step, day by day, getting yourself to the right place. And so that's why I broke it down to the 3 really basic steps. The first of which, and probably the most important, is developing a budget. And developing a budget is how I like to do it, is about getting perspective on where is your time going? Where are your resources going? And so it lets you actually make an informed decision. Most people, you'd be surprised when I go through this with people making a very simple budget, and it doesn't take more than 30 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on your financial situation. But it's so often that people are surprised and they see, wow, I spend that much eating out, or I spend that much on coffee, or I spend that much on whatever it is, and it's not surprising because of the way that human beings make financial decisions. Economists know this; they call it marginal thinking. But what it comes down to is we don't look at the whole picture when we're making financial decisions. A really classic example is, say, somebody going into McDonald's, right? They're not sitting and thinking, well, if I bought the fries and the Coke and this burger and that, it'd be 15,000 calories, and that goes into today. Uh, I'll be eating this later, so I need maybe a little less. We're not doing all that, right? We make complex decisions like that in steps. And the first step is, at some point out there, they thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to McDonald's. It's easy. I can handle McDonald's today. Um, and then they go in and look at the menu and go, uh, you know, I'm at McDonald's, but I just get a hamburger. I like hamburger. Well, I'll get a double hamburger. That's not that much bigger than a single one. And then you think, well, it's only $1 more for whatever, probably not $1 now, but it's only a couple dollars more for a drink. I might as well get a drink while I'm there. And then the MBAs and the economists, they all know this. That's why, it used to be when you went up to McDonald's, they say, do you want fries with that? Right? Because they're stimulating more marginal thinking. Oh, well, I'm getting all this stuff. I'm getting a meal. I might as well get fries. It's not that much more. Right? And so we work ourselves step by step into a position where if we step back and thought, hey, I'm going to McDonald's 4 times a month, or whatever it is, if that's not in line with our goals and our vision, then we would at that point have the perspective to say, I need to do something else. And so getting you into that mindset to where you can look at the culmination of your little decisions throughout the day and throughout the month and see what the results are and where that's taking you is the number one thing that a budget gives you. So I recommend that it doesn't need to be super difficult. There's a lot of really complex forms out there, and all you really need to do is think of categories that make sense to you. So say, cable, phone, food, entertainment, gas, whatever is appropriate in your life, and just look at the expenses over a month, last month or this coming month, and add them up and just see what you're spending and if that makes sense to you. And tailor this for your own personal needs. So if you're somebody that, say, is a coffee drinker, you may want to separate coffee out of food and say, okay, how much am I really spending on coffee? And if somebody came to me and said, you can have for $200 a month, you can have a subscription where you buy a coffee, you get a coffee every morning. Does that sound like a good deal to you? And for some people, they're going to say, yeah, I love coffee and it's worth it to me. But oftentimes you'll look at it and go, I probably wouldn't make that choice. I probably wouldn't spend all that. And to me, it may be worth more. My freedom would be worth more, and the ability to make changes in my life all over, to maybe temporarily give up coffee or permanently give up coffee for a time being. And so that leads us to step 2, which is to cut expenses. And the first thing that I tell everybody to look at is to divide your expenses into need to have and want to have. Right? So you do need a place to live. You do need a certain amount of food. But you don't necessarily need, whatever Netflix subscription. You don't necessarily need to go to the movies as often. But you do need entertainment. We'll focus on that a little bit later. But the biggest thing is to look at your, what can I cut just right now? Just cancel, not do it anymore. Those are the easiest place to cut generally, and what I would focus on first. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, they have locked themselves into permanent expenses or need to haves. Like a big example of this is a residence that's more expensive than they would necessarily be best for them to live in. It's nice to have a bigger place. It's nice to have a newer place, but could you get by with something that's quarter the size, 25% smaller, or maybe not quite as new, and then have the opportunity to have free time and money to move yourself into a completely different lifestyle that or not necessarily completely different, but a lifestyle that's one octave up from where you are now? Oftentimes, if you look at it like that, yeah, that would be a great thing to do. So I don't have time in this talk to really go in depth on how to do that, but if you're interested, check out my website. I've got more there. It doesn't matter how poor you are. In the United States, we are extremely well off. And if it comes down to you need to eat beans and rice for a while and live, in a small apartment or whatever it happens to be, rent a room in exchange for getting your financial freedom, I think that is worth it. And I wouldn't caution anybody away from making a little bit of sacrifice for a huge reward. So now that you have potentially free time and you have free money, what do you do with it? And I love the advice from Rich Dad Poor Dad, the author, and many others, that pay yourself first. So now that you're making this extra money, it's really easy to have it slowly snake its way into other extraneous expenses over time. And those habits are things that build up over time from marginal thinking. And the way to combat that is to take a big chunk, whatever you feel like with what your current expenses are, that you can reasonably take, and put that money away and put it into your investments. And investments doesn't necessarily have to be stocks or business or anything like that, real estate. Like, it can be if you want, if that's what you're comfortable with, but it can be developing skills and trainings, or even taking skills, developing skills and going to trainings, buying tools that produce value, building up, in my case, building people to where they have a house that generates its own energy, and they have the tools and skills that it takes to grow their own food. Those are all investments where you put time and energy out and you get more and more back over time. And the other thing that's often overlooked is life experiences. To me, it's worth it to go and take money on doing trivial things like eating out 2 or 3 times a week, and put it away and do something that really changes who you are. Whether it's traveling, or some kind of workshop or seminar, or even just taking the time off to travel the United States and go to the national park, say, or whatever it is. Spend time with your family. Maybe go live with an elderly parent for a year. These types of experiences are things that are so valuable, really money can't buy them. But not having money and not having time can exclude you from them. And before I go, I just want to say that big changes happen gradually. So don't expect that in 2 weeks your life's going to be completely different. But it can be very far on the road to being completely different if you make the little daily steps, little daily changes, cutting out that marginal thinking and moving towards a purposeful, planned motion in the direction that you want to go. So that's it for me for today. Thanks for watching. I'll pass it on to our next speaker here in just a moment. And don't forget that we're going to be on this time, 5 p.m. Pacific, every day until the 31st, including the 31st. So if you like what you saw today, please come back and join us again next time.